So you have decided to have a go in one of the most exhilarating sports in the world. This film is designed to ensure you get the maximum enjoyment and that you get it with the maximum of safety. Fast, affordable and exhilarating, karting is one of the most enjoyable and popular forms of motorsport. By applying for the Start Karting Pack, you've taken the first step to obtaining your kart competition licence and getting out onto the track.
Hi, I'm Leo Nolte, and today I'll be joined by Richie Faulkner, an experienced kart racer, and Audrey Dunn, who'll talk us through how we protect our children in motorsport. This is an introduction to the sport of karting in Ireland, and today we'll take you step by step through everything you need to know about getting started in karting with plenty of information, so you can get out there and get to your first race meeting.
Karts are high-tech, high-spec race machines capable of speeds up to 160 km per hour. As with all forms of motorsport worldwide, administration is carried out by the FIA, which in turn gives authority to the CIK. They pass on Irish administration to Motorsport Ireland. Motorsport Ireland controls all areas of FIA CIK licensed four-wheeled motorsport from their offices at Dawson Street in Dublin. Today, karting is something to suit every age and budget. Some engines you pull a cord to start the engines, and some are what's called TAG. TAG stands for Touch and Go. It has an electric push-button starter, just like a family car. The gearbox karts are different in that they have to be bump started. In other words, the driver sits in the kart and his mechanic or friend pushes the kart until it fires up. So let's take a look at the various classes we have.
This is a cadet kart for drivers aged 8 to 12 years old. They run yellow plates with black numbers, a 60cc pull-start Comer engine, and they're capable of speeds of 95 km per hour. Top Formula 1 drivers Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton started their careers in karts just like this. This is a Minimax kart. It's for drivers aged 11 to 16 years old. They run a green background with white numbers, a 125cc sealed Rotax engine with a push-button start. The karts are capable of about 105 km per hour. It's the low-maintenance junior class, and many drivers choose to spend a year or two in this class before moving to KF3. The KF3 class is for drivers aged 12 to 16. They run yellow plates with black numbers. These karts run with various makes of 125cc two-stroke engines with push-button electric starters. Top speeds are around 115 km per hour, and this is the Premier Junior class. This is a Rotax Max kart for drivers aged 15 plus. They run a blue background with white numbers. They've got a 125cc two-stroke sealed Rotax engine, but it's got an exhaust power valve which makes it more powerful than the Minimax version. Top speed is about 120 km per hour, and the drivers range from complete novices to the most experienced kart drivers in the country. Rotax National is for age 15 plus. They run green background with white numbers. They're very similar class to the Rotax Max except for a few cost-cutting measures. Drivers cannot compete in both senior Rotax Max championships. Dry tyres must be used for a minimum of 2 events. Drivers are not permitted, unless black plates, to test on the Saturday before the event, and the minimum weight is 10 kilos heavier than Rotax Max. Super 4 karts run yellow plates with black numbers. These karts run on a 4-stroke 250cc engine with an electric start. This is a low-maintenance senior class, but competition levels are high with many experienced and mature drivers. Top speed around 120 km per hour. This is a KZ2 kart. It runs a red background and white numbers. It's got a 125cc engine with a 6-speed gearbox. They don't have an electric start, so they have to be bump started by pushers. They're generally not for beginners. They can reach 160 km per hour on some of the faster tracks. And these are the karts that Michael Schumacher uses to keep fit for Formula 1.
Whichever class you choose, it has to be right for you. Make sure you go down to your local circuit and see which classes suit you before you decide on who you want to go racing with. Now you've selected the kart itself, but what about the gear you're going to need when you go racing? Well, you'll need a suit, and these aren't the same as race car suits. A kart suit needs to have a CIK label, or you could wear a leather suit for both short and long circuit karting. And you'll need a pair of boots like these, with adequate ankle protection. Plus, you're going to need some gloves. These are special racing gloves with suede palms, ideal for the job. And finally, of course, the crash helmet, which has to have the appropriate standards. Here is where you'll find that label with the helmet standard. Never ever buy a helmet on mail order. Your helmet protects your head and it must be a perfect fit. Helmets are quite heavy objects, so remember there's a special lightweight helmet which must be worn by drivers under the age of 15. That standard is Snell FIA CMS 2007. Or Snell FIA CMR 2007. In addition, you need a chest protector like this one, so that in the event of an accident, you're far less likely to get hurt. So that's all the equipment you will need to wear when you go racing a kart, but obviously it makes sense to buy the best you can possibly afford. but always check the regulations to make sure your purchases comply.
We strongly advise that you buy these items from an official supplier, as when buying second-hand you have no guarantee of the product that you're buying. And as with any other form of motorsport, if you have a problem with the kart or something goes wrong at high speed, you want to be protected in the best possible way.
Let's take a minute to look at the basic maintenance requirements of a kart. Always check the wheel nuts are tight. Check the tyre pressures. Ask your dealer if you're not sure what pressures to use. They may be different for hot and cold weather or for the wet weather threaded tyres. Check the chain has some slack and always spray it with chain wax between sessions or races. Every so often check all the nuts and bolts are tight, especially the ones that hold the engine onto the kart. Make sure there is some rotation movement on the rose joints at the end of the steering rods, at all angles of the steering wheel. Check the brake pedal does not have excessive movement. If it does, the brake pads may need adjusting or replacing. Check that the throttle pedal hits the stop at the same time as full throttle is obtained. You should always have a fire extinguisher in your trailer. Make sure there is enough fuel in the kart for the next race or practice session. For a two-stroke, the petrol needs to be mixed with the correct ratio of two-stroke racing oil. It's a good idea to use a funnel with a filter to keep any dirt out of the fuel tank. Now, whether you're driving a Formula 1 car or a kart, it's vital to know your machinery, so let's get started at the very beginning, getting in. Start by standing in the seat and then feeding yourself down, making sure not to touch the hot engine or exhaust. And then feed yourself in, making sure that as you climb in, your heels miss the important track rods, and feed yourself down into the seat, which should be tight and secure. And of course, it's important to hold the steering wheel in the correct position. Don't put your hands at the top of the wheel, but hold it in a 10 to 2 or quarter to 3 position. A light but positive grip for maximum control. Now, of course, this kart is comfortable for this driver. His legs are nicely bent and he does not have to stretch to use either the accelerator pedal or the brake pedal, which of course should be used independently. And if you're in the correct seating position, your feet will be upright, not splayed out, and that's very important. Now, starting a kart is one thing, but you've also got to stop it. And how you do so depends on whether your kart is a clutch fitted or not. If it's a gearbox kart, there won't be a clutch, so you stop the kart by stalling it with the brake pedal. Or if it does have a clutch, you use this on-off engine kill switch. Now clearly there's more to driving a kart than just turning the wheel and pressing a couple of pedals. You need good mental and physical preparation if you're going to drive quickly and smoothly for lap after lap. So let's take a look at driving technique. Perfecting the racing line involves positioning the kart on the approach to the corner. Progressive braking, well-timed synchronized acceleration and accurate turning at apexes and exit points. Controlling entry speed is critical because you must be able to get your kart turned in precisely, enabling you to accurately clip the apex of the corner. This will allow you to feed on power as early in the corner as possible, and the net result will be a reduction in your lap time. Your approach to a corner is critical, as locking up under braking can destabilize your kart and provoke loss of control, plus it can lead to entering a corner too quickly and running out of track. Oversteer is a situation where the rear wheels don't have enough grip. The driver must have their wits about them, as only speed of correction will prevent oversteer leading to a spin. Opposite lock should be applied in the direction of the slide and matched reduction of either the brake or throttle input depending on which triggered the oversteer. Kart control is a skill that can only be developed with practice. The trick is to always look in the direction of the way you're going, regardless of where your kart is pointing. Understeer, on the other hand, is where the front wheels give up their grip, and this is generally caused by entering a corner too quickly. And the way to correct this is to reduce both throttle and steering input. Failure to do so will result in loss of control. Damage limitation is the key here. When you pass the point of no return, you should remember to brake and hold the steering wheel lightly with your thumb position outside of the wheel. The instant your kart comes to a halt, you raise your arm in the air to warn other competitors. Cautiously get out of your kart and move it to safety off the track, but only if you're able. The priority is for you to go and stand in a place of safety like a marshal's post. If your kart is in a position to restart safely, do so, but be aware of oncoming karts. You are not allowed to make repairs or adjustments, except in the pit lane or other designated maintenance areas. If your kart is broken down, you or your mechanic will have to push or use your trolley to fetch the kart back to the pits at the end of the race, unless the circuit has a pickup service. Always obey the officials. Another problem you may encounter is being forced off the racing line by avoiding another competitor or moving out to overtake. Both are hazardous, as grip levels are considerably reduced by small pieces of rubber swept off the line. Braking distances have to be amended, as well as the point at which the power has to be reapplied. Failure to make allowances may mean loss of control, and even if you don't spin, it will lead to a loss of momentum and hard-won race places. If you leave the circuit, don't brake sharply unless you're heading straight for a barrier. Ease back on the throttle, hold the steering wheel with a very light grip and gently nudge your kart back onto the circuit. In the exceptional situation of a brake failure, there's usually very little time to react, but try and put the kart into a spin to slow it down. If the throttle should stick in the full open position, immediately switch off the engine with the kill switch or pull the plug cap off. If you have a problem, raise your arm as soon as you can to warn other competitors. A clean overtaking manoeuvre is usually the result of a fast exit out of the preceding corner. When overtaking, you must be decisive. It's your responsibility as the driver making the move to overtake cleanly, while the driver being overtaken should stick to the racing line. Overtaking cleanly is perhaps the most difficult skill to learn, and this example of contact driving would most likely earn you a penalty. You need to be 90% alongside the other driver before you can safely claim the corner. Otherwise, the driver may not see you and may turn in on you, and penalties can follow. Remember, there will be observers watching your driving when racing. So just what does it take to go fast? We'll take a look at a good kart racer. They seem to put in very little effort, and yet they go faster than everyone else and invariably end up winning. This is because they've mastered the three elements of speed: smoothness, accuracy, and consistency. If you concentrate and train on these aspects of your driving, speed will naturally feel right. If, on the other hand, you try to force the pace, you will tend to make more errors. As a novice, you must respect your personal limits. Remember, to win, you must first finish. When you race in Ireland, there is at least one certainty that you're going to get wet. However, it is likely to rain at some point, and when it does, you'll need to switch to these treaded wet tyres. To exploit a wet track, the driver must be able to drive with a huge degree of finesse. Control applications must be smooth, gentle, and progressive. Just like F1 cars, karts have both slick and wet weather treaded tyres for every extra grip. Visibility in the wet is greatly reduced, and a special visor or applications can be used to reduce the spray obscuring your vision. Loss of grip and traction mean that braking distances must be greatly increased. A wet track can show a different characteristic, and it may be advantageous to drive off the racing line to find that extra grip. Flag signals are used in all motorsport, and they're more or less universal worldwide. Understanding their meaning forms an important part of any driver's knowledge. Signals from drivers to other drivers are equally important, as that is the only form of communication when on track. So let's have a look at the flag signals used in karting. Some may be used anywhere on the track, such as a marshal's post, and others only at the finish line. Blue flag, stationary. Another competitor is following close behind. Waved, another competitor is trying to overtake. White flag, a slow-moving kart, a service car, or other slow-moving vehicle such as an ambulance is on the circuit. Yellow flag, stationary. Danger. Slow down sufficiently to ensure that full control of the kart can be retained. No overtaking. Yellow flag, waved. Great danger. No overtaking. Slow down considerably and be prepared to suddenly change direction from the projected racing line or take other evasive action, including stopping if necessary. Yellow and red striped flag, stationary. Slippery surface ahead. Waved. Slippery surface imminent. Green flag, all clear at the end of a danger area controlled by yellow flags, and also shown at all posts during the start of a practice session or the first formation lap of a race. Red flag, immediately cease driving at racing speed. Proceed slowly without overtaking and with maximum caution to the pits or where indicated. You should raise your arm when you first see the red flag to warn following competitors that you are slowing. Black flag with orange disc, displayed with a number positioned at the start line. A warning of apparent mechanical failure or fire. The driver concerned must call into the pits for repair. Black and white flag split diagonally and displayed with the kart number positioned at the start line. A warning to the driver that his or her driving is suspect and they may be black flagged on further reports. Black flag with the number positioned at the start line. The driver must stop in the pits within one lap of receiving this signal and report to the clerk of the course. Penalty of exclusion may be enforced. In this example, the driver acknowledges the black flag and pulls off the racing line. He looks for a gap and pulls safely into the pits. Hand signal, as shown here, signals a false start. The starter will raise his arm and signal in a circular manner with his hand and arm. This means go round again. Likewise, so that the drivers at the back can see that the start has been abandoned, each driver does a similar hand movement. Sometimes orange flashing lights may also be deployed. Slow down, take up start formation again for another lap. It's most important that when coming into the pits, the driver raises their hand high at least one corner before entering the pits. The correct procedure is to raise your hand, look over your shoulder, and when it's safe to do so, move off the race line and then enter the pits. Not to do this can cause accidents because the driver behind may not know that you are entering the pits, and then suddenly, if you move across the track to enter the pit area, the driver at full speed can crash into you entering the pit area. The hand signal shown here means the race leader, who will act as a pace kart, must slow down to a rolling lap safe speed, and all competing karts must line up in order behind, with no overtaking. When the safety period is over, racing restarts when a waved green flag is shown at the start line. If the start lights fail, then the start can be signalled by the use of a national flag. For instance, the tricolour flag, which is swiftly raised for a rolling start. Perhaps the best known of all flags is the black and white checkered flag, positioned at the start-finish line and used to signal the end of a race.
Of paramount importance in any sport, and especially motorsport, is the element of safety. Safety of the drivers and safety of the spectators. Every kart circuit must have a licence in order to hold events, and that licence is issued by Motorsport Ireland.
A strict criteria is required to achieve a track racing licence. Take a look at this track. As you can see, the tarmac of the track surface is bordered by energy-absorbing barriers to both stop a kart if it goes off the track, but also to retain the kart so that it doesn't bounce back onto the track in front of other karts, causing an even bigger accident. While incidents do happen, usually the only injury is to the driver's pride, but it can happen that a driver is hurt or requires further attention. In this event, we take every precaution possible. At all Motorsport Ireland kart racing events, there is an A&E doctor present and 2 ambulances. Why 2? Because if an ambulance takes a driver to hospital, then there will always be another ambulance present in case something else happens. We do not race karts unless there is an ambulance and an A&E specialised doctor at the track. Motorsport Ireland work very closely with the Irish Sports Council to ensure that drivers are not at risk from each other or through the taking of performance-enhancing drugs or indeed any other illegal substances. So spot checks are done at several racing events. A driver can be breathalyzed or a sample taken to ensure that no drugs are taken. The breathalyzer check is the same thing as the Gardaí do, but whereas on the roads a certain level is acceptable, at the track the reading must be 0. We don't want alcohol or drugs in drivers who compete with one another. This is all part of our safety protection for drivers, officials and spectators. Okay, so now you have your kart, you have your clothing, and now you know about safety, so you want to go racing. Step 1 is going to be applying for your race licence. Motorsport Ireland will send you a licence application form, or alternatively, you can download it from the Motorsport Ireland website. If a driver is in any of the junior classes, then you also need a competitor entrant licence. Again, the Motorsport Ireland website can supply this. The entrant licence is all part of how we protect our children in the sport. You're going to need a race number. Certain numbers you cannot apply for, such as numbers 1 to 10. That's because these numbers are allocated to the top 10 drivers in the national championship from the previous year. But if you have a preferred number, say 44 or whatever, then you can ask for that number, and if it's available, you'll get it. Getting your number automatically registers you for the National Championship of Ireland. To get this form, like the others, you can go to a website. irishkarting.com is the website that most people use. Fill in the form and send it to the Motorsport Ireland registrar. You are just about ready to go. If you want, you can join the clubs. It's especially a good idea if you're doing a lot of events, because by being a member of the clubs, you get reduced entry fees and you are registered to the club championship as well as the national championship. It's also a lot less expensive when renewing your licence if you're a club member. Be well prepared for your first race. Be sure to download your race entry form and have it to the race secretary of that club no later than 7 days before the event. Fill in every box on the form because it just makes life so easy for those processing the forms. Now you're ready to go, go, go and enjoy yourself.
Audrey, you're the Motorsport Ireland National Children's Officer. What exactly does this role entail?
Well, a children's officer attends all race events, and if, for example, a driver has to be spoken to that's in the junior classes by an official, then we also attend. We are there not to represent the child, but to ensure that the child fully understands why they're being spoken to, and also make sure that they don't feel intimidated in any way.
So there are guidelines then for people to follow?
Yes, but they're more than guidelines, Leo. We have an Appendix 123 of our yearbook on a code of conduct for the treatment of children. They are regulations, and all drivers or parents must read this section.
So what's your aim?
Our aim is to protect children and to have, we won't tolerate any form of bullying or intimidation from adults or indeed from other children. The code of conduct is there to ensure that children have a safe, healthy and enjoyable environment to compete with in their sport.
That's excellent. It's a great idea that despite the competition in kart racing, at the end of the day, competition apart, the idea is to provide fun and excitement for children within the sport. Thank you, Audrey.
You're very welcome, Leo.
It's so important that you arrive at the track nice and early. It takes the pressure off you and gives you the chance to go through the routine of preparing yourself in a much more relaxed manner. The first thing you will do is go to sign on. That will be in the race club office, and the race secretary will give you a scrutiny card. You fill in each section of this card and bring it with you to scrutineering, where they will check out your clothing and your cart to be sure that you comply in every way with the safety aspects of clothing, helmet, and that your cart is safe for racing. Next, you will have driver's briefing. Here, the clerk of the course will introduce you to the Motorsport Ireland steward and the club steward. The clerk of the course will talk to all drivers about procedures for the day. Then things really start to move. Each class will then assemble on the grid and will go out for a minimum of 3 laps practice. Use this time to familiarise yourself with where the marshal's posts are and what track conditions are like. To absorb this now is better than trying to concentrate on things other than racing when the heats start. In kart racing you do a number of heats and your results are then averaged, and that's what gives you your grid position for the final. If it's your first race, remember that consistency is the key. You learn nothing by falling off the track, so don't worry about fastest laps, just stay on the track and you're learning a lot. At the end of each race you will be directed into park firming, where the karts are checked by scrutineers. This is called eligibility scrutineering, and this is to ensure that all karts comply with the regulations. Some rules may seem unnecessary, but they are there to make sure that racing is fair and racing is safe. So now you've finished your first day's racing. You may not be on the podium yet, but this is a major step towards getting there.
The best way to end this video is to say that if you're racing just for fun, or you plan a career as a professional race driver, one thing is sure: safety must come first. I can't think of a better way to enjoy myself, and I hope you now feel the same. Thanks for watching, and see you at the track for your first race.